He's speaking, but you understand what you
I've said hi to this guy That's where I reside these days. You know that David Glass character? Six or 700.
Yes, but I
Je ne sais pas si on va oublier ça, là. Tu montrer?
Non, je ne l'ai pas montré.
C'est une chance. T'as-tu emmené la tablette avec toi?
Yeah, not bad. It's not bad, right? Just remember the picture.
Look forward to seeing what you write.
Joke and put a net. This is the roast one that you can take.
You get a chance to read a lot of fiction these days. I'm a utilization analyst for Wow, you don't run into those every day. What do you know? Oh, it's a nicer title than I had 7 months ago. I worked in a convenience store in Quebec. Convenience gas station. Where's the cashier? Did that and I was living in France. It was an important job, you know? I couldn't work in French at this level. What a guy. And then it didn't work out. I stayed anyway. Got to know people. Utilization analyst, and I work with Aurora, which you haven't heard of.
Hi, Richard.
You guys have heard of Simple Truth. Great those store brand names are built. Absolutely. Thank you. Super value is yeah, the co-leaders of most of
Have anyone seen Bennett? He's supposed to be here half an hour before everyone.
He's late.
When he comes in, everyone say boo! You know what Bennett is? We're late. We're late.
Can I do it?
Yeah, Bennett is late. We gotta start with the
Yeah, I don't care. All you need is the number. No. It's a rent, United.
The pictures last night were too dark. It doesn't look good, so I wanted to get something to get out this morning. I'll put him up there, but they aren't good. I'm going to put one that's better.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Leave it.
I have an amazing announcement for each and every person in this room.
Lève le volume.
I have an amazing announcement for each and every person in this room. Bennett is late. The inmates have taken over and I've got the microphone.
And of course, you'll be kind and
Of course.
fine when he gets here.
Benevolent. So some announcements I want to tell you. Tonight for dinner, we will not be eating in the cafeteria. We will be having... Downstairs, one floor, we're going to be having a cookout on their big deck. So if you go up that circular staircase, you'll basically be there. You'll see all the noise. So at dinner time, we're having a cookout, back deck.
Nice.
Then we're going to be followed by a piano performance by Bob Stallone. After that, we'll be back to the deck where they're going to be serving us refreshments, including the alcoholic and non-alcoholic types, as well as snacks, for a good last evening party that we can enjoy. But you can't enjoy it until you're done with your studies today, so focus. T-shirts. As you know, we are selling T-shirts. We don't want to take the T-shirts home. You should take the T-shirts home. So for a very special price, $5 off, please come today and buy a T-shirt. So a total of $15 for your T-shirts. Hey!
Coming from you guys, it's still a compliment. David and I took a nice walk across the quad to some doors that were open last night, but were not open and would not work with our cards. And Rick had to come and find us.
Poor baby.
You know, if you show me any more sympathy, I'm going to cry.
That's good.
Come back to that. He's just quick.
Hey, it's like I never left. Before we get going, I'd like to have Cheryl, is Nick Stefano here? Not Nick, excuse me. Doug, if you can come down for a moment, is he here? You, Doug. You.
Yeah, wander on down there, Doug.
And Barb. And thanks to my lockout, you have less time, and you guys will find out what this is about in just a second. Each of these three are going to tell you their best 1 minute on what's happened with their use of what was called the portal and is now called the study group directory. But it seemed relevant to our case here this week.
Let's record this, okay? You got that, right?
No, okay. So I was very excited when Portal became functional, and I went immediately and signed up my study group and filled out everything I had to fill out, and I waited anxiously to hear from people. And it didn't happen. 1 month, 2 months, I don't know, maybe 6 months, and then all of a sudden, one day when I'm thinking about everything else in the world other than Urantia, the phone rang. And I picked up the phone, and this very hesitant voice said, is this the right number for Urantia? And I said, oh, yes, yes. My name is Cheryl, and what can I do for you? And that was the beginning, because ever since then, every few months, we'll get one, we'll get two. In a 2-month period, I think we had 3 or 4 calls. And sometimes people come and sometimes they don't. They find out where we live and it's too far away for them or whatever, or the day that we meet isn't the right day, but I always point them to the other study group in our area and say, well, if you can't make it Sundays, there's the weekly group on Wednesdays at my friend John's house. The point is, the portal, the directory, whatever it is so valuable. If people are calling me, then whoever else is listed, I guarantee you they're getting calls. Whether they call up Scott and say, hey, Scott, thanks, or not, because I didn't. It didn't even occur to me until I found out that Scott was one of the ones who did a lot of the work. And somebody said to me, well, tell Scott. He'd like to hear that. So, hey, Scott, thank you, Scott. You and your team. My study group success story, and it can be yours, it goes back to the Leadership Symposium, thank you, Bennett, of 2011. And I live in Chicago area, but I am from Kansas, and I've always supported Wichita study groups. And I realized that in 1955, we had 2 groups in Wichita, which is saying a lot in those days. And we didn't have 2 groups in 2011. So that was my goal setting at the Leadership Symposium. I wanted to see new groups in Kansas, and we had one of people I already knew, and I called, and we got it going. But in May, I checked the study group website, and I had had my heart set on something completely new, and there it was. And this gentleman, Clint Stuckey, if you're listening this morning, hi. He read the book for 15 years. He's director of one of our college university programs, wonderful man. And because of the website, the most important part of the story is he read the publication mandate on a website somewhere and realized it was really his responsibility, but also he was excited about starting a study group. And we have a completely new group. One of our readers, who was in Mike Wood's first study group in rural Kansas, a fellow named Kenny Bruner, is helping us, and we are having an August 21st celebration east of Wichita. So tell everybody in eastern or western Missouri, Oklahoma, Nebraska, we'll be in the dark sky in the Flint Hills of Kansas for August 21st. And we're celebrating our completely new, wonderful study group because of the website and the online presence of UAI. Thank you.
Well, I've had a couple of experiences with the portals. A couple of them I'll mention in my presentation this afternoon. As I travel, I try to look up zip codes where I'm going to be parked and see where the study groups are. And last fall I found one in the Philadelphia area, which was an excellent group. And just recently, just a couple of months ago, I found there's a really super group in Charlotte, North Carolina. And again, I mentioned this afternoon. But another interesting occurrence I had, I was at one of the conferences, could have been Kansas City, and I handed my cards out to everybody. And just a couple of months ago, I got a call of some guy who identified himself as having received one of my cards. And he said he lived in Lexington, Kentucky. Do you know of any other readers? And I says, well, no. But then I went back and went on the portal. And on the portal, there was a lone reader in Louisville. And he had his photograph in there. So as soon as I get back, I'll call the guy. His name is Crabtree in Lexington, and hook up the two. So that, and I always, as my travels, I always look up and see where there's any study groups in the area by the zip codes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Those of you who have not done so, find your cell phones and tell them what they can do with themselves for the next few minutes. Okay, we're going to have just a brief moment of silence today, and then Gaetan will roll the calming, beautiful video. And I want to say thank you myself for the quality of the presentation that bookends our presentations this symposium. May we always center in God and act in the Supreme.
You think this is just another day in your life? It's not just another day. It's the one day that is given to you today. It's given to you. It's a gift. It's the only gift that you have right now, and the only appropriate response is gratefulness. If you do nothing else but to cultivate that response to the great gift that this unique day is, if you learn to respond as if it were the first day in your life and the very last day, then you will have spent this day very well. Begin by opening your eyes and be surprised that you have eyes you can open. That incredible array of colors that is constantly offered to us for pure enjoyment. Look at the sky. We so rarely look at the sky. We so rarely note how different it is from moment to moment with clouds coming and going. We just think of the weather, and even of the weather we don't think of all the many nuances of weather. We just think of good weather and bad weather. This day, right now, has unique weather. Maybe a kind that will never exactly in that form come again. The formation of clouds in the sky will never be the same that is right now. Open your eyes, look at that. Look at the faces of people whom you meet. Each one has an incredible story behind their face. A story that you could never fully fathom. Not only their own story, but the story of their ancestors. We all go back so far. And in this present moment, on this day, all the people you meet, all that life from generations and from so many places all over the world flows together and meets you here like a life-giving water if you only open your heart and drink. Open your heart to the incredible gifts that civilization gives to us. You flip a switch and there is electric light. You turn a faucet and there is warm water and cold water and drinkable water. It's a gift that millions and millions in the world will never experience. So these are just a few of an enormous number of gifts to which we can open your heart. And so I wish you that you will open your heart to all these blessings and let them flow through you, that everyone whom you will meet on this day will be blessed by you. Just by your eyes, by your smile, by your touch, just by your presence. Let the gratefulness overflow into blessing all around you. And then it will really be a good day.
Lights.
Lights.
As we get to know each other, we naturally fall in love with our brothers and sisters. Coming to the front is a gentleman I have become friends with, and yet I don't know him very well. I hope someday to know him as well as I respect his wisdom and his insight. David has been active in over 20 study groups in Florida, Oregon, and Texas. He was instrumental in the inauguration of statewide conferences in Florida since 1976. David found the book in 1972. He has served the Urantia community in many capacities and is new membership chair of Lone Star Urantia Association of Texas. A past speaker at local, state, regional, national, and international conferences, David also plays piano and writes poetry. His presentation is Study Groups, Actualities, and Potentialities. Let's welcome David Glass.
How's this? Testing 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Good morning, everyone, and my sincerest brotherly regards to each of you, sons and daughters of God, assembled here today. You are my brothers and sisters, frères et sœurs, hermanos y hermanas, Bruder und Schwester, in the Father's family of everlasting life and divine love. You are my partners in the grand project of promoting and enhancing the formation of many, many study groups across the landscape of Urantia. It is a special privilege for me to speak to you at this time about what I call study groups, actualities and potentialities, the glorious good news. Perhaps some of you remember having seen the movie Contact, one of my favorites, based on a book by Carl Sagan. Contact is a fictional story based on the fact that astronomers have been listening in on the universe on multiple wavelengths, hoping to catch a message from an extraterrestrial civilization. In the movie, suddenly a message is received, detected by an astronomer named Jodie Foster, played by Jodie Foster, that is. What a triumph it is for her until, if you saw the story. But now, in real life, you come along, and somehow you encounter the Urantia book, which lights up the night sky for you like a rocket, with an even greater brilliance, revealing not simply one more world, another pale blue dot out there in space, but upwards of 5 trillion inhabited planets, with 7 trillion in prospect, innumerable celestial personalities, even a hidden eternal universe revolving around the stationary Isle of Paradise at the geographic center of infinity. Awesome, astounding, sensational. I believe it is among our tasks in study groups to help new or early students of the Revelation to experience this same initial breathtaking discovery moment for themselves if they have not done so on their own already. Such an experience constitutes an instance of profound personal religious experience, one of the central themes of the book and the essence of the religion of Jesus. Okay, that's my first point. I found out the more obvious you are, the better you communicate. Now, going on, point 2. As we read the Urantia papers, we become aware that the entire series of our planet's epical revelations have a cumulative influence and effect. Each one builds upon the others. The Urantia book we have is a recapitulation of all of the first 4, plus, of course, the complete text of the 5th. Thus, it behooves us to see our outreach not only as expressions of our enthusiasm based on our response to the 5th revelation, but as revivals and continuations and expansions of the heroic efforts of the noble Vanites who remained true to Michael during the Lucifer rebellion, of the bold and dedicated Sethite priests and missionaries going out from the second garden, of the intrepid and adventurous Salemite messengers commissioned by Machabenta Melchizedek to proclaim salvation by faith, and even of the incomparable apostles and disciples of Jesus who responded to the call of service, facing very real and perilous, even appalling dangers of virulent persecutions and the likelihood of an excruciating and ignominious death. From the inclusion of the history of these accounts, it seems clear we are to draw strength, courage, inspiration, and determination from knowing about and conjoining our efforts with such illustrious predecessors as we take upon ourselves the yoke of the Master's service. It is my contention that nothing short of a heroic effort on our part will suffice for our long-term success. Jesus' stirring words continue to reverberate today. You are the first volunteers, he said, speaking to the apostles, of a long line of sincere believers in the kingdom who will astonish all mankind by their heroic devotion to these teachings. No armies of the world have ever displayed more courage and bravery than you and your loyal successors, who shall go forth to all the world proclaiming the good news, the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. We study group hosts need to see to it that our group's members are aware of our planet's magnificent spiritual legacy, of the distinguished spiritual nobility of our revelatory heritage, not overlooking or forgetting the tremendous investment and sacrificial service on their part of our immediate forebears in the 20th century, who were a part of the nexus of events which produced the Urantia Papers and put them in our hands. I believe we should understand the service of forming and fostering study groups in its broadest cosmic and evolutionary context for what it truly is, a rare and privileged opportunity to come on board, still almost at its inception, on a venture which is destined to make more differences in this world than any war which has ever been waged, any moral, political, social, cultural, or scientific discovery, reform, or movement in all of human history. Third point, serving as a study group host is part of our personal response to the Master's injunction to go into all the world, proclaiming the glorious good news of man's eternal sonship with the universal Father and the twin truth of man's everlasting brotherhood with his fellow man. Regarding our study groups, which I like to also call kingdom pods, let us hear again these words of Jesus to the apostles and to us. This small beginning shall multiply and grow until eventually the whole earth shall be filled with the praise of my Father. Viewed objectively, study groups may appear to be a modest undertaking, but they carry that same promise of the Master to eventually transform the planet by providing favorable contexts in which the great change in the heart of man described by Jesus can take place. Study group hosts help plant the seeds that one day will grow into a benign army of believers, the soldiers of the circles, who will conquer an empire of materialistic secularism and overthrow a world sway of mechanistic naturalism. Now, if you please, let's engage in a little experiment. Everyone, please put a big, lovely, winsome Urantian smile on your face. And then, without standing up, look around at everyone else, at all of the Revelation students gathered here, who you can comfortably see from your position. You are looking at the vanguard of the leadership of the Urantia Book community of our era, who, along with many in absentia, are charged with the solemn responsibility of carrying the light of life across our world and into the hearts and minds of everyone who will receive our message of divine sonship. You are looking at the loyal Vanites and Sethite priests of today. You are looking at the Salemite missionaries of our generation, at the Jesusonian apostles and disciples of our era. You yourselves are now the spiritual nobility of this fresh, incipient epoch, of this brave new world of possibility and promise. Therefore, whenever in the future it occurs to you that the Urantia Book community or some Urantia Book reader should do a certain thing, get up and do it. Because what you now see is what you get. What you are is what you get. The activities and vitality of study groups, and therefore in part the destiny of the planet, are in your hands. In study groups, people learn about their true Heavenly Father, His real nature, His unconditional love, His unfathomably merciful, abundantly forgiving, and progress-supporting nature. A Revelation student is enabled not only to find his place in life, to discover meanings and values in the context of his earth experience, but also he can find clarity in his cosmic orientation and his spiritual direction towards God. Mercy, tolerance, patience, and fatherly love are desirable qualities of successful study group hosts. Further characteristics would include a constantly improving comprehension of the revelation. 2, a supreme dedication to the mission of Michael and to the partially comprehended eternal purpose of the Universal Father. 3, an approximate appreciation of the scope, depth, and breadth of universal creation. 4, a cheerful attitude of generosity and goodwill. 5, an implicit reverence for the divine. I believe it is in the best interest of hosts to visit other study groups, if at all possible, even to correspond with other hosts, easily done in the age of the internet, and to be creative in seeking additional means of promoting inter-study group cross-fertilization. If an area is blessed with more than one group within convenient driving distance, accommodations should be made to relate the groups or to provide social events for the group's members. Multiple study group study projects can also be very educational, enlightening, illuminating, and fun. Speaking of fun, I have a little bon mot to share with you. We keep talking about prayer, and we find out that the best way to pray to God is to go off by yourself into a quiet place and commune with your adjuster or with the omnipresent Father. But the best way to see God is to text him a message while you're speeding down the busy highway. I would say that the universe personalities have done their part for our new epoch in the astounding fact of simply giving us the epical revelation. And now it remains to us to assist humanity in taking note and taking advantage of the tremendous potentials represented by this new gift. As custodians of spiritual truth and stewards of the revelation, we cannot permit ourselves to become truth hoarders. The world is too hungry, too needy, too beloved by God to be ignored. Study groups provide the cradles of credulity wherein leaders of the spiritual renaissance can be reborn leaders who can direct others in our world advancing, quote, march towards a new and unrevealed planetary destiny. Perhaps we can all catch a vision of a living network of illuminated truth outposts, a worldwide system of study groups which would provide this generation and the next with an effective means of responding to the immense moral trust implicit by our having become beneficiaries of this gift. Such a vital network of study groups could be activated by some communication system of infrastructures for which are already in place through the global internet and similar media systems. We urgently need in study groups a provision for active and aggressive outreach to contact the, quote, confused minds, unquote, the revelators speak of, and to minister to the humanly dislocated persons of this planet. We hear the Midwayers declaring the call to the adventure of building a new and transformed human society by means of the spiritual rebirth of Jesus' brotherhood of the kingdom should thrill all who believe in him, as men have not been stirred since the days when they walked about on earth as his companions in the flesh. Close quote. So, our assignment, as I see it today, is to respond to these challenges of the revelators in a heroic manner. We can strengthen ourselves for our mission first by consciously conjoining our efforts with our outstanding throngs of revelation disseminators of previous epochs. Second, by accepting the Master's invitation to go into all the world, proclaiming the glorious good news of man's sonship with God. And third, by zealously returning to our study groups with renewed vigor, with a will single to the discernment and doing of the Father's will. For all time, Jesus pronounced the everlasting summons to represent him in the world, even as he represented his Father when he said, "As the Father sent me into the world, so send I you." Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. We're back on schedule. Thanks.
Thanks to David.
You know, I wish I could speak as loud as some people think. And that's saying something. And little be known to you, I stopped and thanked him on the way up. Of course, he was one of the lockouts with me, so. It's going to be break time in just a moment, but we got to take a couple minutes to remind what's going on today. And when I get done with these couple things, if anybody sees that I've missed something, please shout it out. First thing is tonight. There is the last dinner that we will share on this venture, and it will be in the patio of the second floor. Anybody who has walked through the quad behind this building has probably seen this. It's up a set of steps, and there's tables and chairs, and the doors go right into the canteen area in the lounge, the public gathering space. You can get to it by walking up the circular staircase where we took the picture, or you can take the elevator to the second floor and go that way. Okay? Second item is tagging on to what Chris reported to us yesterday. In the fulfillment of our service project, you should all, when you're at your rooms today, begin to gather your items and get things in order. If you have a car or a place, I would suggest leaving out what you're going to wear tomorrow and putting everything else in your vehicle. And then later today, we will have the place to tell them to come and an approximate time frame. We haven't adjusted the time schedule yet tomorrow, but we will probably allow a half an hour in the morning, and we'll just move everything accordingly and deal with it from that respect. But remember, we have to, when we leave for breakfast tomorrow, we're out of our rooms, so make sure to double check for your belongings. The good thing is you'll still have your key if you forget something, unlike some hotels where they disable your card. What missing? Anybody?
T-shirts are on sale.
And we appreciate the fact that this conference has really been right on time. It has been great.
Thank you very much, Joyce, and I wanted to say that in spite of all of your best efforts to jeer and cajole me, I still was able to fight my way through that to find the compliment in the acceptance of the fact that we were going to run on time and everybody jumped on board. And yet Will is still providing some hindrance to that. But I love you and I believe in you so much. Yes, sir.
For all of you that might be thinking about those videos that were shown or all the materials that was recorded during this event, and all the plenaries that were given, all that material will be made available. I'm still trying to determine what would be the best way to do it in a fast way. So you might be provided a link on the internet where you can download the material. The video will be probably exported to Vimeo on the internet, so you will have also access. And when our new website is ready, we'll probably have a page where all this material will find its way for you to download and use as you wish within your study groups. So if ever, some people were asking me, what happened with this? Can I have this? Can I have that? You will. Don't you worry. We'll take care of that.
Remember, ask and you shall receive. You may perhaps have to ask a different person to find the one who is able to allow you to receive. But nonetheless, something I learned yesterday in our discussion groups is that we're all pretty aware of these things that we have to do. And we're still learning in this process better and more complete ways and processes to get to the way of doing these things. But remember, when you talk to somebody for the first time, when you've got 10 seconds or you've got 30 seconds in an elevator, whatever's on your mind when they either ask you a question or you offer a suggestion is what's going to come out of your mouth. So I would encourage everyone to identify first with God, remembering that comprehension of the process of becoming like God, and I'm stretching this a little bit, but this is the mortal passport to paradise. It's transferring the seat of the identity from the material body to the soul by guidance of the Spirit of God. And we thus get to eventually bring back to God the gift that He gave us. Amen. Amen. Okay, Susan?
For any of you who are not currently on the association email list, I have my iPad with me, so if you'd like to be on that email list, just come and see me and we'll get you signed up. It's on MailChimp and it's in many different languages, so we can accommodate everyone, our membership and our friends. And the second thing is, if you're like me, I'm coming up with a lot of really good ideas that I'm getting from the breakout sessions and from the plenaries. And I would like to collect those and see if we can put them together and make them available on the website. And so I will be, anybody not have email in the room? See me so that I can get your mailing address. But everyone else who has emails, we'll post these on the website so they'll be available and we don't lose a lot of this great wisdom that has been accumulated over these days. So, thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Yeah, and I'd like to offer my 2 cents. I think we're getting better at this. Each time we learn a pretty big lesson, and the next one shows the lessons we've learned, as this one has demonstrated quite clearly. But yet we find that there's no lack of things to learn to make things better. And the job of the program committee is to make that pretty transparent for everybody else and suffer quietly in our own rooms. By the way, your mother called and she said, buy a t-shirt. All right, quiet please, right to the back.
Concert tonight with Bob Salome in the chapel.
Yes, and returning once again to our theme of time management, Bob will be ready to play at 7:30. I was wondering if everybody will be in their seats, having exchanged their last few thoughts, and be quietly turning their attention to what he's going to bestow upon us. And if this is the first time for you, prepare to enjoy. Most of the rest of us know what we hope to expect. Tom.
You're right, that'll be in the chapel?
That will be in the chapel. It's already set up. You'll have a little bit, you'll have ample time to collect yourself between dinner, but let's not be 7:30. Let's be 7:20 or earlier. Okay, anybody else have? All right, we're right at time, and the new breakout schedules have been posted. You know what to do. Now's the time to do it.